In her latest attempt to own the libs, Marjorie Taylor Greene held up poster-sized images of non-consensual pornography of President Biden's civilian son, Hunter Biden, in Congress's latest hearing about him. Intrigued? Then click that like, subscribe, and the alert bell, and maybe check out my Patreon, and enjoy the video. So I've said it before, and I'll say it again, because I doubt it will change anytime soon, and it bears repeating, and it needs to be said and expressed in every possible combination of words so as to persuade people who don't yet recognize it. But Republicans play the game of American politics on easy mode with cheats and mods enabled. It's just easy for them. They don't have to campaign on record. They don't have to campaign on policy. They don't have to campaign on popularity. What they do instead is they try to rig the rules of the game of electoral politics in their favor because they know they can't compete on record, on policy, on popularity. And then they can campaign on BS culture war issues that rile up their base irrationally because it doesn't matter. It doesn't actually have a material impact on the day-to-day lives of their base. So issues like whether or not a green M&M is wearing sneakers or heels, or whether or not, again, the left is going for your gas stoves because they would prefer your gas stoves not poison you and your households with fumes, or Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is just like, he's just the go-to. Now, what am I talking about? Well, under Republican control, the House of Representatives had their latest Hunter Biden hearing. Now, as a reminder, because this is really, really important, Hunter Biden is the president's civilian son. I can't stress that enough. That doesn't mean he's above the law. And as a matter of fact, we know that Hunter Biden is a criminal because he has pled guilty to 2 misdemeanors, and he's currently working out a gun-related charge, which is very rarely applied, I might add, in an arrangement with a Donald Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in a deal that will be supervised by a Donald Trump-appointed federal judge. Again, civilian son, guilty of crimes. He's pled guilty. He's been investigated by a Trump-appointed attorney, U.S. attorney, and the deal that he's worked out with that Trump-appointed U.S. attorney is being presided over by a Trump-appointed judge. Lots of political checks against Hunter Biden, who, again, is a civilian, has never worked for his father, has never had a position in the Biden White House, has never been a government actor wielding state power. But this man, this civilian son, is getting more scrutiny, much, 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 much more scrutiny than government agents, than government actors, than people who wield state power. Republicans have worked out this ridiculous standard that the civilian son of a Democrat should be held to a higher ethical and legal standard and higher ethical and legal scrutiny than the children of Republican officials when those children actually have positions of state power. So Ivanka and Jared are my go-to examples. They had official, formal positions in the Trump White House. They were not private citizens. They were not civilians. They wielded state power. They wielded government power. They had government security clearances, government influence. They helped shape, officially, government policy under the Trump administration. By any sane definition, that means they should get more scrutiny and be held to higher standards than private citizens. That's the standard we used to believe in the United States, regardless of whether or not you're Republican or Democrat. If you're in a position of power, you should be held to a higher standard, and your actions should be scrutinized much more. But Republicans say, no, not when it comes to Democrats. When it comes to Democrats, that trumps anything. Pun intended. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. And the absurdity exacerbated, accelerated even further, because during this hearing, which lasted about 7 hours, by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene held up poster-sized images of Hunter Biden's non-consensual pornography that even Fox News felt the need to blur out, even though it was kind of blurred out, like there were like redacted bars over his genitalia and things like that. But they went one step further and, de-res the entire image. And it was her attempt to gotcha to own the libs. So we're going to play a couple of clips here.
Ms. Ocasio-Cortez can get equal time.
I will let Ms. Greene wrap up 5 seconds, and then I'll give Mr. Mafume additional time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Shapley, you started an investigation into Hunter Biden, codenamed Sportsman, which opened in November of 2018. It was an offshoot of an investigation the IRS was conducting into a foreign-based amateur online pornography platform. This is evidence of Hunter Biden making sex. Excuse me, this is my time. Making pornography.
Should we be displaying this, Mr. Chairman, in the committee?
The lady's time has expired, and Went 2.5 minutes over.
Chairman,
If
can I have
Mr.
a point of
Mafume
order?
wants the 2.5 minutes, he can have it. If he wants to yield some to Ms. Ocasio-Cortez when she goes, she can have it.
So that was James Comer, the Republican chairman of this particular oversight committee. He didn't put a stop to the charade. He went out of his way to try to justify things. At one point, he said, well, these photos are on the internet. But here's the thing. Making private pornographic images or sex tapes or whatever doesn't mean that you consent to them being displayed in the public, and certainly not by sitting members of Congress. It's disgusting. Imagine if there were nude images of, say, Ivanka Trump or Jared Kushner, again, members of the Trump White House. Would Democrats be waving them around in congressional hearings? No. And what would happen if those Democrats did do that in that counterfactual? They would be condemned, not only by right-wing media, but also by elements of the left as well, as is often the case. The asymmetry of expectation, the standard to which Democrats are held compared to Republicans, this should be that as insubstantial as what Marjorie Taylor Greene did might seem. Because again, it wasn't like, as far as scandals go, I mean, certainly not on the scale of Donald Trump, for example, trying to incite an insurrection. But it was such a breach of decorum and such a despicable act, even though the national implications are relatively small, that it should be all over the news. And it would have been all over the news if a Democrat had done that to the child or relative of a Republican president. It would be all over the news, and not just on Fox News and Newsmax. It would also be on CNN and MSNBC and AP and Reuters and all the things. But it would be covered just completely differently. It's absolutely despicable. So I want to play a couple of clips here from some Democratic congresspeople who called out Marjorie Taylor Greene for her actions afterwards.
At this hearing. But today's hearing is like most of the majority's investigations and hearings. A lot of allegations, zero proof, no receipts, but apparently some dick pics.
That's one from Representative Garcia. And then we've got another from Representative Jared Moskowitz of Florida, one of my favorites.
Now, in an effort to own Hunter Biden, okay, they're assembling nude photos of him, right? Having some intern have to sit in a room and blow up these photos and put it on poster board and figure out, which ones are beyond the pale.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're right to call this out. It's absolutely disgusting. It's despicable. It's further proof of the entrenched asymmetry of expectations that the American public has for Republicans and Democrats. This should be all over the news. This should be widely condemned. It should not be a partisan issue. This should be widely condemned by other Republicans as well. Other Republicans in that chamber should have objected, like, whoa, Marge, what the hell are you doing? Stop that. Take that down. But it didn't happen because at the end of the day, Republicans are happy to exploit that asymmetrical set of expectations to ruthlessly pursue power. And that's something that Democrats need to keep in mind.